Buenos dias, Andrew. Thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I am excited to introduce Andrew McGill, co-founder of Ashton McGill, who are a collective, is a firm of accountants in Dundee. And Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Now, Andy, how did you end up running an accountant's firm, bearing in mind your background?
Yeah, so my background is marketing, advertising, PR, a little bit of kind of service design, customer experience, journey work. And I kind of came out of university, started to actually do a little bit of work with my dad. He's an ex-accountant at that point, and he was starting to get a bit into service design, and there was just a good opportunity to collaborate together with my kind of graphic design background, etc. We just worked quite well together, and we managed to pick up some really good clients, working with the likes of the V&A, Volkswagen, Xero, the accounting software, funnily enough, speaking to accountants.
Yes.
And that's where it started to click with me. We obviously had an accountant at that point. My dad had run accounting businesses in the past, as well as other businesses, and he'd exited out of one. And I started to have that experience with the accountant where everything's last minute, they don't communicate. My tax return was done on the 27th of January, and I had this tax bill to pay, and I maybe wasn't prepared for it, and all that stress. Obviously, my dad, he kind of knew about it, so he was able to warn me and stuff. But all the stress of preparing for these things and stuff was just not fun. And it started to click with me at that point by just saying to my dad, right, why is the accounting experience like this? Why is it like this for the average small business? Is this a problem for a lot of other business owners? And at that point, he was like, well, I'm really enjoying doing the service design work, so maybe I'll actually continue doing that. And we had a big project that was postponed for 3 months, and your income's just gone, effectively.
Yes.
And I kind of said to him at that point, like, accounting business, monthly recurring revenue, selling our time at the moment, whereas we could build a kind of scalable business. And it took about 6 months, and eventually it clicked with him and just said, right, this is something I want to do. I can see how it would work. I can see how we could scale it. And the first thing we did was to just do a big customer research survey of business owners across Scotland and the UK. So we built a survey, we talked to business owners about what their experience with their accountants was like, and we did realize that it was a big problem. And lots of people were actively looking to move accountants. Lots of people wanted to move accountants in the next year, and everyone was experiencing the same challenges we're dealing with. Obviously, there's good accountants out there, good experiences and bad experiences, but it felt to us like there was a gap in the market. So in 2017, we launched Ashton McGill as an accounting business.
That's brilliant. I often hear cases where the dad brings the son into the business, but here you were the instigator to get the business set up and going. So, wow, very impressive, very impressive.
Thank you.
So what are the, well, I always say, by the way, we are a coaching firm, as you know, business coaching, and I often get clients to change the accountant because they get what you said before, they get the accounts 6-9 months after the year end. And I say, that's like driving, looking back, you're driving, looking back. And numbers is the language of business. So it's great to hear an accountancy firm who are proactive and meeting their clients regularly. You mentioned at least quarterly, right?
Yeah, and it's always been that way, because that means we've got a quarterly checkpoint with all of our clients to say, how's everything going? And it's become more and more strategic over the years as we've developed as a business. We've taken that experience and we've always iterated that service.
Yeah.
So our quarterly review meetings now are more strategic, and there's plans built in with each client, and it just gives us that chance to sit down and catch up and say, like, what's happening? Because if we're catching up with you after your first quarter, versus your current accountant that you're catching up with 6 months after your year end,
Yes.
like a year and a half late. Whereas we're
Yeah.
turning up to the party there and then. We know what's happening in your business. We can help you build a plan. We can have the time to educate you as a business owner, help you understand what's happening in your business right now. So you can start to look at the data and say, oh, what would happen if I did this? Or
Yes.
what would happen if I did this? Or what if I
Yes.
changed my pricing? What impact would that have on my business? And these are the conversations that we get to have daily with our clients. And if you're
Yes.
speaking to them 6 months after the year end, just about the numbers and getting the numbers correct, you're not really adding that much value as an accountant at that point.
Yeah. How often is the quarterly review? How often is it with the client?
So yeah, quarterly reviews. It happens in quarters. So you'd start off your business year. So we'd have a review of the first quarter.
Yes. How long is that meeting? When you meet them, how long is the meeting?
So we do a bit of prep before. So if we're doing management accounts for our clients, financial reporting, performance packs, etc., we'll spend, depending on how complex the business is, quite a bit of time preparing that to turn up to the meeting. The meetings are normally about an hour, but it depends on the client. But
Yeah.
standard practice is about an
The
hour.
average an hour. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And the clients you get on board, what's the size of clients? One thing I know is that you want ambitious clients who want to grow their business. That's your target market, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for us, working with those businesses is just really exciting because there's stuff happening day in, day out, and that's where we can add our value, helping that person as they scale, add staff, from a commercial perspective, kind of the sales side of things, pricing, and for us, a typical business that would come in, so we don't do audit, so we don't do that like higher echelon of audit, which we're not interested in at the moment. But yeah, typical business coming in at the moment, about kind of 500K turnover. They're growing. They have issues with maybe not understanding how cash moves around the business, how they make a profit, how the business works, and they typically have just got that service that's the kind of 6 to 9 months after the year end, and they realize they're at a point now where I've hit this point now where I've got this ceiling to break through with my business, and I need more proactive advice, and I need to understand my business better to take it to that next level.
Brilliant. In terms of size, employee size, what's the minimum and the maximum? So what's your sweet spot? They say, okay, below that is not our core business. Above that is, if you went for employee, just for people to visualize.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's a tough one to pinpoint because we've got a client over 6 million and they have 2 staff. They're e-commerce businesses. So it's tough to put a number on staff, but yeah, typical business, let's just say if we start working with them, they've maybe got 10 staff. But then we also work with Dundee Football Club, which is a bigger organization. So there's quite a few staff. So
yes,
we can handle pretty much any, like once you start talking 30-40 million pound companies with hundreds of people on the payroll and stuff, that's not really what we do. We're more involved in that kind of small business up to about 8 to 10 million. Yeah, you could be talking 50, 60, 70, 80 staff.
Very good, excellent. So what are the plans, say, for this session? What are your aspirations as a business for the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I guess the kind of, so we started working with a consultant called Les Bain, and he used to be managing director at Accenture. He's exited out of that, and he's working as a consultant under a brand called Rexter at the moment, and he acts as our guider, and kind of he'll push you to do things and he'll challenge you, and it's really good to have that in the business. So Les has helped us build what's effectively called the game plan. So it's a game plan that we've built for 3 years at the moment. We'll expand upon that. We've chatted about what the long-term goal is. And having him come into the business has been really good because he kind of said, right, what's the question that we're trying to answer here? What are we trying to do? So our kind of question for ourselves is, what would it take to become the go-to accountant for growth-focused businesses in Scotland? Now, we do work with businesses across the UK, and we have some businesses that have expanded internationally as well, but that's our kind of core focus at the moment. Our kind of 3-year plan is to go from we're quite well known now, I guess. We won Xero Small Firm of the Year in 2021, and we were nominated Xero's Mid-Sized Firm of the Year in 2023. So kind of shows the growth journey that we've been on. So our next challenge is to go from that kind of smaller accountant to start to push up to those kind of bigger accountants and start to challenge them. And that's where we'd like to be in 3 years' time.
You mentioned that at the moment you are, what, 14, 15 people in the business. So when you visualize your business as finished, what does your business look like when finished? How do you see a team of?
Yeah, it's funny because when we first started the business, we said, right, what would this look like? And I always said, like, oh, having a team of 10 and just having good people in the team, working with small businesses, doing great work, that would be amazing. And we're kind of past that point now. So it's a tough one to think about because I always struggle to imagine the future. And I think a lot of business owners do. I find it easy to work in like 3 or 5 year cycles, but when you're thinking, like, I did an exercise recently when I was just thinking about our brand and what it would mean, and the exercise was to effectively write an obituary for your company. So your company's closed and you've got to write what it did, what its purpose was, what happened with the business. And yeah, I think I wrote in that, like, I can imagine us getting up to about kind of 50 staff and just doing great work, expanding our service offerings and starting to offer strategic consulting services and just really start to, add more stuff into the pot, but then also to have made an impact on the business owners we work with and help them achieve their dream of growing their company.
Brilliant. Excellent. Do you have a favorite book? It cannot be an accounting book. Any book of any sort. So it doesn't have to be business or.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always go back to Simon Sinek and the why concept. I'm not the biggest reader of business books, but that one's always stuck out for me. And having that purpose behind your business and what you're doing with your team and getting everyone together on that is just so valuable. And the kind of infinite game also kind of plays into that. So just really focusing on what you're doing as a business, trying to just like change accounting and actually just change what that means for business owners. And by doing that, everything else just kind of falls into place.
Yes.
So those are kind of the 2 books that would stick out to me. The one I'm about to read is Atomic Habits, which I've heard a lot about. So
yes.
I need a bit more of that in my life, I think, just for
this one here.
Yeah,
very, very good. It's the one phrase I love from that book was get better 1% every day. In other words, a wee bit, every day.
Because over time it multiplies, and
yes,
just as our business has gotten bigger and scale,
yes,
making sure that you personally invest time in yourself and work with a coach or work with a mentor to challenge you and push you and pull out your weaknesses and chat about your strengths and just challenge you on things has been really valuable for me.
Yes. There is another book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. Have you read that one?
I have not, no.
That is a great book, self-help. It came out in the 90s. It really swept through the business community. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Great book. Okay, do you have a favorite movie?
It's a good question. I've always loved the movie La Bamba. I'm not sure if you've watched La Bamba.
No, I haven't, but I'm making a note of it.
Yeah, so it's about kind of struggling, quite young kind of music artist trying to make it, called Richie Valens, and it kind of follows his journey as he battles with life and problems and music and getting popular, and unfortunately it ends with a plane crash with him passing away, unfortunately. But I've just always loved that movie, and it's always stuck out to me. And I actually had the one of the tracks in it is called "We Belong Together," and that was me and my wife's kind of wedding dance song. So that's the first kind of movie that came to mind. But it's a brilliant movie. Absolutely love it.
Brilliant. I've made a note of that. Yeah. If you could have a superpower, what would you choose?
So, well, I'm a big golfer, so if I could
Are
have,
you? Okay, me too.
so if I could have a superpower, then I'd love to be able to just control the golf ball like Scotty Scheffler, because he's just absolutely amazing at the moment.
Yeah.
No, I think if I was being serious, if I had a superpower, it would be just being super. I don't know, you should be ambitious, shouldn't you? It'd be cool to fly. It'd be really cool to be able to fly. That would make traveling about
Yes.
really good. If I was talking work wise, I think just being super organized, efficient, and just having that higher level of thinking would be amazing, because it'd just be really cool to be in that flow state at work and just grow something amazingly.
Brilliant. If you could live a day in the life of, who would you choose?
Oh, it's gonna have to be golf related again, because I just love to know what it feels like to hit a driver like Rory McIlroy. I'm playing the Masters.
Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Very good. Excellent. So, Andy, it's been great to have you on board with us today at Business Spotlights. If you could give advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that advice be?
I think just to I think there's always something in life around the feeling of failure, and you maybe don't do things sometimes because you're scared of that feeling, but actually the happiest things and the best things that you do in life sit on the other side of the thing you're afraid of. And that's the thing I think I would tell myself, is that there are things that maybe seem daunting to you, and you're scared to fail, but all the things that you want and desire and happiness are on the other side of that. And for me, that relates to work, sport, putting yourself out there, and just in general life. Just, don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because by overcoming that, then you can get onto the things that you want to achieve. And that's about people's opinions of you, etc. But just actually waking up, taking that step that other people might be afraid to do, and maybe wouldn't do. Just by doing that, that's just so courageous. And all the best experiences I've had in my life have been from when I pushed people.
I saw in Edinburgh Airport years and years ago a flipboard with an ad of this guy who went to the Antarctic, and he had frostbite in the fingers. Can't remember his name. He's now in his late 80s, and it was a face of him, with the hood on, bushy eyebrows, frosted. You could light a match on the cheek. And it says, "My greatest fear is not to live my life."
Yeah.
Wow. And it's the biggest epidemic in the world is fear, fear of failure. And I love the mantra of Nelson Mandela. I think it was him who said, I never lose, I either win or learn.
Yeah.
Wow. So, what's the worst that can happen? You try something, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
If you can live with it, go and do it.
Yeah, because I would rather know the feeling of failure and learning from it than not having that at all.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant. Well, it's been a real pleasure, Andrew, to have you on board and for sharing your journey with us. And have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.